Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody who has joined us here on the show tonight. We are still on our device here. I hope to be on our computer again starting tomorrow. We've got some more software to avoid being messed with by YouTube. So we are going to be on the air tomorrow, hopefully with our computer. Tonight we're on the device again, and I'm sorry to say that. We're going to talk about earthquakes around the world and earthquakes in the Pacific Northwest in just a few minutes. Our top story originates here in North Carolina tonight. 3 law enforcement officers serving a U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force warrant were killed this afternoon after being met with active gunfire from a suspect inside an East Charlotte, North Carolina home. One suspect that was outside started firing at officers when they arrived at the home, and he was neutralized. He's dead on arrival. 2 other people that were in the home have been shot and are in the hospital under guard by police, probably federal agents, and they are being dealt with as we speak. A total of 8 law enforcement officers were shot, including 4 Charlotte Mecklenburg police officers who were injured. At least one of those Charlotte officers is listed in critical condition and is fighting for his life tonight. The officers were serving together on a U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force when they were shot while confronting a suspect inside a home on Galway Drive in Charlotte, North Carolina. The officers were rushed to the hospital but died as a result of their injuries. Now, I've been fielding questions pretty much all afternoon about what can happen with these fugitive task force. The U.S. Marshal's Office frequently has fugitive task forces, but those task forces are made up of local officers as well as United States federal agents, whether from the FBI, the DEA, the Marshal's Office, or other federal law enforcement. I wanted to make that clear because a lot of people question that. We have talked with the Marshal's Office today. We know what's going on, and no one's name is available right now because they are notifying the next of kin. So names of the officers injured or that have been killed will not be available until probably tomorrow at some point. Now, like I said, these law enforcement officers were working on a U.S. Marshals task force when they were met by active gunfire. This typically occurs. Okay? I don't know of any officer that is a party to a task force that serves warrants that this doesn't happen. They're met with active gunfire, and usually the gunfire is neutralized or the suspect is neutralized. The shooting suspect today that was shot in the yard of the home has died. 2 others that were found in the home are in the hospital and are being questioned. The suspect that was killed was the suspect that they were interested in serving the warrant for and taking to jail. Okay, that's what happened. That suspect died today right from the beginning. But the shooting didn't stop. Shooting continued from inside the home. Hundreds of rounds were fired, not just by police, but by the suspects that were in the home. Now, 2 other juveniles or older juveniles were taken out of the home and apparently are safe at this point in time. Officers have not released the names of anyone involved. Okay? Bella Virgo is here. Bella is a dear friend of ours over in England, and she probably won't be able to stay much longer because over in England right now it's midnight, or close to midnight. We appreciate you being here, Bella. Thank you so much. Residents living near the Galway Drive location in Charlotte were told by police to shelter inside their homes until the police were able to make the neighborhood safe. Schools that were in the neighborhood were also told to have the teachers and the students shelter in place, and the school was on a lockdown until that point in time when police felt it was safe for those teachers and students to leave the school. Now, the people that live over there, the families, should have their students home by now. The police were actively engaged by gunfire when they arrived at the home in Charlotte. Okay? The Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department SWAT team and the medics, the mass casualty unit, were activated and responded to the shooting scene. Police officers from Charlotte Police Department responded immediately when the call went out, officers down, police need help. Officers down, police need help. Some of the Charlotte officers were also shot at and injured. One officer from Charlotte is in extremely critical condition tonight. The other officers may have had as little as a flesh wound, meaning a grazed wound as a bullet flies past them but just barely touches them. That happens. I've seen it. I've been part of that. But today we tragically lost 3 U.S. Marshals today on a fugitive task force in the line of duty. 5 additional officers were struck by gunfire. Again, this includes 4 Charlotte Mecklenburg police and an additional officer from an assisting agency. The Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department officer is still in critical condition. Okay? Again, the Charlotte Mecklenburg School District confirmed 4 schools were on a modified lockdown due to police activity in the area. The schools were Devonshire, ES, Briarwood Academy and Cochrane Collegiate, and Lawrence ORRES. The lockdowns have since been lifted and the students have been sent home. The mayor of Charlotte came on the air, I want to say about 40 minutes ago. They were supposed to be on the air on the Facing the News conference at 5:40 p.m. Eastern Time, and it was delayed, waiting for people to arrive that were officials for the news conference. The mayor, Vi Lyles, said, "I am deeply saddened by the shooting that occurred. All Charlottans keep them and their injured officers and their families in their thoughts and prayers during this incredibly difficult time. Every time there is an officer down call, families throughout the department wonder if their officer is one that might be involved. I remember those kind of calls when I responded. Our families were in deep concern until we made a call to them telling our families that we were safe. It is an extremely, incredibly difficult time period. Only the families and the officers and their families of the police departments involved can talk about this, because they are the ones involved. It's amazing what happens when officers are involved in any kind of event, any kind of incident. I've been there. One neighbor in this particular location, and it was a pretty good sized neighborhood, told the television station that they had never before seen anything like this that had happened. Never. Not in over 27 years. It's sad. It is very sad. We have people within our ranks, within our communities, that are evil people. Trafficking drugs, sex trafficking operations, and many other evil constrained things. It's horrible that these people lay in wait in neighborhoods, and all of a sudden when police come over there to issue a warrant for their arrest, all of a sudden the police get fired upon. Rarely, if ever, do the police ever fire one of the first shots. We are instructed to never fire a first shot. But if we are fired upon, we are instructed to protect ourselves and those around us. Police officers are seen right now out of hospitals or around hospitals throughout Charlotte where these officers were taken. Again, this is an active story, and we will be updating this information probably sometime tomorrow. It's sad. Something else that I want to talk about tonight is the prosecution of Donald Trump. There is a law professor named Handelsman Sugarman at Boston University. He thinks that the Manhattan DA's office, Alvin Bragg's prosecution of Donald Trump, is a historic mistake. Sugarman made that conclusion after witnessing opening arguments this morning in which prosecutors alleged Trump's orchestrated criminal scheme to corrupt the 2016 presidential election. The Democrat Party went after President Trump in 2016. They went back after him during his entire presidency, and in fact, going to the House of Representatives, which at the time was controlled by communist Democrats, and they impeached Donald Trump twice. And they continued on. The leadership of the Communist Democrat Party here in the United States frequently went after Donald Trump. All the time. They didn't get him. In 2020, they continued to go after him. Even up and through the election, they went after him. January 6th, they went after him again, saying that he failed to notify the National Guard and bring the National Guard in to the Capitol building on January 6th. He didn't fail. It was Nancy Pelosi's decision. Nancy Pelosi's decision, because she was the Speaker, what do they call it, the Speaker of the Senate. She was in charge. And she's the one that turned down National Guard troops, saying it didn't paint a pretty picture. That's why she refused to have National Guard troops at the Capitol building on January 6th. Yet they continue to blame everything on Donald Trump. It's not Donald Trump's fault. Prosecutors today claim Trump falsified business records to interfere in the 2016 election. He didn't. He had no reason to falsify business records in 2016 or 2020. Yet these stupid communist Democrats continue to throw mud at him, hoping some of the mud sticks. according to Sugarman from Boston, he said he has problems with this thesis. It's obviously an unprecedented use of state and federal law. Unprecedented use of state law and a persistent avoidance of specifying an election crime or a valid theory of fraud. If they can't put forth a valid theory or a specificity of a crime, then they make it up. They make it up, and they continue to make it up in order to go after the lead Republican running for president. They don't like him because he will expose the Democrat communist theories and people may go to prison over it. And that's what should happen. He says, as a reality check, it is legal for a candidate to pay for a non-disclosure agreement. Someone that works for the president or works for anyone may be asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I have signed several non-disclosure agreements before during my career and lifetime. Hush money in this alleged trial of Donald Trump is unseemly, but it is legal. Hush money is legal. So there is no reason for Alvin Bragg or his goons to continue this trial of Donald Trump. In Monday's opening argument, the prosecutor Matthew Congello still evaded specifics about what was illegal about influencing an election. What was illegal about influencing an election? Every candidate for president has always tried to influence the election. It was only until recently that the Democrat communists have gone to the ballot box and have falsified documents at the ballot box. Or they falsified documents and those documents are counted as regular votes. That's what happened. Okay? The prosecutor today evaded specifics about what was illegal. Then he claimed it was election fraud, pure and simple, unquote. None of the relevant state or federal statutes refer to filing violations as fraud. None of the federal statutes refer to filing election violations as fraud. Calling it election fraud is legal and a strategic mistake. They can do anything they want. They can say something is illegal, but it doesn't have to be true. So they can trump up, excuse this is not a pun, but they can say one thing and have it come out the other side of their butt. It's a mistake. And in this case, the Democrats, Alvin Bragg, the prosecutor, and the other prosecutor, Matthew Congello, is going to get it bit in the butt. They are exaggerating the case and setting up the jury with high expectations that the prosecutors cannot meet. They're going after the president, thinking that they can take him down. But lying about the president doesn't work. Someone has asked in our chat about, I don't have any idea what is going on. And Heather came in here and said that I have experience because I was a federal officer. I was a federal officer. I had lead objects fired at me and other officers as well. I faced all kinds of things when I was a cop. It's bad. It's bad. Anyway, going back to this case in New York with President Trump, 8 years after the alleged crime itself, alleged, they want to make it seem like there's a crime that wasn't. Okay? It's reasonable to ask if this is more of Manhattan, New York politics than New York law. 8 years after the alleged crime, it is reasonable to ask if this is more about Manhattan, New York politics than New York law. This case should serve as a cautionary tale about broader prosecutorial abuses in the United States. This should not be allowed to happen. It should never be allowed to happen. The legal process itself should play itself out. But Trump may ultimately win, not just in the courts, but he will win back the presidency of the United States because of the Democrats and their BS. Their BS. Kel Griffin says it's all corrupt, Ron. You're absolutely right, it is. Exaggerating allegations, unprecise legal theories, and persistently unaddressed problems. The prosecutors themselves may not win a conviction at all. But in trying to go after President Trump, the prosecutors themselves may lay themselves open for prosecution against them. Not by President Trump, but by their exaggerated use of the law. They could end up getting prosecuted themselves. Quite honestly, there are people that were in the courtroom with President Trump today that left in utter disbelief. Because Bragg and his goons chose to prosecute a case that is a complete embarrassment. It's a complete lie from the top down and an embarrassment to the authority of law here in the United States. Sad but true. Now, I want to go over and talk about earthquakes around the globe. There are plenty of, there's plenty of data available to show earthquakes literally around the globe. I want now to talk about the largest earthquakes that have hit. Number one, there is an earthquake in the South Pacific, in Vanuatu today. Vanuatu. That earthquake, guys, was a good-sized quake, but none of the earthquakes that we are talking about tonight are anything but large earthquakes. Large earthquakes. The earthquake today in Vanuatu was a 5.2 earthquake. A 5.2 earthquake. Another earthquake over in Tonga. Over in Tonga today. Guess what? Nothing more than a 4.6 earthquake. The largest earthquake today hit over in Vanuatu, west of Fiji. Just a large earthquake. There are no other very strong 6.0s or major 7.0 earthquakes anywhere around the world. None. If any of you have gone over onto the USGS map today, they are showing no more than 365 quakes worldwide. 365 quakes worldwide. Well, guess what? That are the most quakes that they've ever shown on the map in a very, very long time. in 5 years that I've been doing this, that those are the most earthquakes that they've shown in 5 years for one day's worth of earthquakes. But they're still not telling the truth. That's a sad thing. They're not telling the truth. South of Tonga, in the Kermadec Islands and over in New Zealand, 25 earthquakes south of there in New Zealand. 25 earthquakes there. They are only showing, and I just can't get, I don't understand this. They're only showing one 4.5 earthquake in Papua New Guinea. They're showing a 4.4 in Sarangani, Philippines. And another earthquake, and this is a bit larger, off the northeast coast of Mindanao, Philippines, a 4.9, 5.0. Over in Sumatra today, Sumatra, a 4.6 earthquake there. Folks, guess what? I told you there's 25 earthquakes in New Zealand. There's another 25 earthquakes in Indonesia that they're not telling us about. That's 50 earthquakes there. So now we have over 450 earthquakes. 450, actually it's more than that. 460 earthquakes worldwide. And guess what? It doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. We have one other large earthquake over in China. One earthquake over in China. Interesting how they tend to throw stuff out. And it came out as a 5.2 that they downgraded to 4.6, and now they downgraded even further to a 4.2. That's a full magnitude downgrade in China. Fascinating, huh? Over in Turkey, eastern Turkey, there are 62 earthquakes in eastern Turkey that they have not told us about. Now we have probably close to 540 earthquakes worldwide. Over 150 earthquakes that they have falsely talked about, or not talked about. We have another 30 earthquakes in Turkey that they have not addressed at all. We go over to Greece. We have another 35 earthquakes in Greece that USGS has not said anything about. Fascinating. Now we have over 600 earthquakes worldwide that USBS refuses to say anything about. Fascinating, huh? They don't want to be truthful about squat. Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid they tell the truth. So Greece, they haven't talked about. Turkey, they haven't talked about. And the other earthquakes in the Middle East that they haven't talked about. Fascinating. Then we go over to Italy, central Italy. 24 earthquakes in central Italy that USBS has not shown any of what's going on. Nothing. Not a thing. There's about 15 other earthquakes in Italy and Sicily that are not there either. So now USGS has not talked about 300 plus earthquakes. And the beat goes on. USGS has not addressed earthquakes in France or the Netherlands. Yet they are there. Another 10 or 11 earthquakes in France and the Netherlands and over in Switzerland as well. How about Spain? 4 earthquakes in Spain that USGS has not addressed. 3 earthquakes south of Spain on the east side of the Strait of Gibraltar. Fascinating. Earthquakes in France. I'm sorry. Earthquakes over in Africa. Ethiopia to be exact. USGS doesn't want to talk about them. The Canary Islands. 3 earthquakes in the Canary Islands, nowhere near land. USGS is not talking about them. Earthquakes in the Azores. USGS doesn't want to talk about it. Earthquakes in Iceland. USGS doesn't want to talk about it. Fascinating. Completely fascinating. South America. USGS is showing 3 earthquakes in South America. There are 25 earthquakes in South America. From Chile and Argentina, Bolivia, Peru, going up into Ecuador and Colombia. USGS hasn't talked about that either. Over in Central America, good old Central America, a 4.4 earthquake. A 4.4 earthquake over off the coast of Panama. USGS doesn't want to say anything about it. Why not? How about the other 14 earthquakes over there in Panama and Costa Rica and Nicaragua and El Salvador? Why are they not being talked about? Why are they not being talked about? They happen. Why is USGS refusing to acknowledge what's going on? They don't care, do they? They have not shown any acknowledgement for giving out any information to anybody. And as a result, what's going to happen? People are going to die. People are going to die because USGS can't do their job. They can't frickin' do their job. As you know, I have a problem with that. I have real issues with that. If you can't do the job, get the hell out. If you can't do the job, get the hell out. Yes, I am not giving them any lenience at all. I am not showing them any lenience whatsoever because they can't do the job or they refuse to do it. Regardless, when a company can't do the job, what happens? Usually that company goes under. Usually that company goes under. But what happens with a United States agency? What happens with a United States agency that continues to not do their job? Guess what? They continue to be funded by Congress, allegedly, until they can do the job. Meantime, us taxpayers that pay the USGS to do a job that they don't do. What's the problem with that? Southern Mexico. 42 earthquakes in southern Mexico. 42 earthquakes in southern Mexico. Why are they not telling us about it? Because they don't want to. They're basically refusing to tell the truth. Refusing to tell the truth. And they continue to get away with it. They want to get paid for doing nothing. They're not showing but one earthquake on the southern side of Panama. in Central America. "14 to 15 earthquakes in Central America by itself. 24 earthquakes in South America, and they show us 3. So out of 36 earthquakes in Central and South America, they show us 4 earthquakes. How many in southern Mexico? 40 earthquakes in southern Mexico that they don't want to talk about. Now, I'm going to ask a question. There's an earthquake today in New Jersey, in Jersey. It is a 0.7 microquake. A 0.7 microquake. Why are we having a 0.7 microquake in New Jersey or Jersey? Why? Because, folks, about a month ago, Jersey got hit with a 5.9 large earthquake, an upper 5. A large earthquake. USGS reported it as a 4.5. They report it as a 4.5 quake. What's going on here? That is over a magnitude and a half difference between what they reported it as and what it was. And I showed you the documentation about that quake when it occurred. And they still don't want to tell the truth about it. There's a real problem there, isn't it? And we continue to have aftershocks. It's been a month. Now, I don't expect the aftershocks to continue for too much longer. But, folks, what's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen? We're going to have earthquakes up and down the East Coast. And I guarantee you they're happening now. Why are we seeing earthquakes on the East Coast? Because the Atlantic Ocean, the tectonic plate that the Atlantic Ocean sits on, it's called the Atlantic Plate. Duh. The Atlantic Plate is pushing the North American Plate, Canada and the United States, in a south-southwesterly direction, causing earthquakes up and down the entire east coast of Canada and the United States. But USGS did not even address that. 3.0 earthquakes in Roper, North Carolina. And I now know people that live in Roper, North Carolina. Okay? Earthquakes in Virginia. 2.5, 3.0 earthquakes in Virginia. West Virginia is the same thing. North Carolina is seeing upwards of 20 earthquakes, 2.5 to 3.5 earthquakes just here in North Carolina. South Carolina has seen just as many. Georgia's seen just as many there. Because the Atlantic Plate is pushing the North American Plate in a south-southwesterly direction. That's why we're getting earthquakes on the East Coast. Not to be outdone, we have an earthquake here on the New Madrid Fault today in Missouri, Marston, Missouri. And we'll talk about the New Madrid Fault tomorrow night. But Marston, Missouri had a 2.0 earthquake there today. And I will bet you that that was actually a 2.5 earthquake. I can also show you other earthquakes in Arkansas. 3.5 and 4.0 earthquakes in Arkansas, eastern Arkansas, on the edge of the New Madrid Fault. Why? Because, folks, when the Atlantic plate pushes on the North American continent, the pneumatic fault is getting squeezed. The pneumatic fault is getting squeezed. Folks, it's happening. I've proven over the years. The pneumatic fault is getting squeezed. And it's going to continue to do so. Guaranteed. We have earthquakes in Oklahoma. We have earthquakes in Texas. We have earthquakes in California. Earthquakes in California. Who would have thunk? Who would have thunk? Earthquakes in California. The Pacific Plate over in California, along the west coast. The Pacific Plate is subducting under the North American Plate like this. The Pacific Plate is subducting under the North American Plate like this. That is putting pressure on the west coast. That is putting pressure on the entire west coast, from Canada on the west coast all the way down to Mexico. That's why we're continuing to see earthquakes all along the west coast. Okay? Subduction. The west coast having these earthquakes and all that seismic pressure pushing on the west coast, it's putting pressure on the western side of the pneumatic fault as well. That's why we're getting earthquakes there. So the pneumatic fault is being squeezed from both sides. Folks, I've shown you documentation in weeks and months past that the seismic energy being expelled over on the pneumatic fault is only increasing. The amount of seismic energy and the number of earthquakes that are happening there has increased substantially. And because of that increase, I've told everyone, and I'll say it again here tonight, the pneumatic fault is going to pop. And I don't think it's going to take much more than 2 years for it to pop, regardless of what USGS or anybody else says. They're saying, oh, Ron, it's not going to pop for 25 years. Some scientists have even said 50 years. I call BS. Judging by the amount of energy we have already on the pneumatic fault, just in the past 3 years, the energy that we see on the pneumatic fault has increased 400 times. And USGS hides it. Occasionally, they'll let a microquake go, a tremor go, and a 2.0 in Marston, Missouri today, a 2.7 also in Marston, Missouri on other days. Earthquakes on the east side of the pneumatic fault over in Tennessee. 3.0 earthquakes in Tennessee, Ridgely, Tennessee. Heaven forbid they tell the truth. Heaven forbid they tell the truth. Now, there was an earthquake that hit in Clifton, Idaho today. Clifton, Idaho. It's a 2.2 earthquake. It's in the Rocky Mountains. That's why that earthquake hit. The Rocky Mountains, folks, is the edge of the plate. The edge of the plate. Okay? We're seeing it. We're seeing it. Up and down the entire Rocky Mountain area, the Rocky Mountain area, stretching from northern Canada all the way down to New Mexico, we're getting hit. Up and down the fault. We're also seeing seismic energy over on the west coast. Today in Petrolia, California, the southern side of the Cascadia subduction zone, a 2.1 earthquake there. A 2.1 earthquake. We are seeing more and more earthquakes all up and down the west coast of Canada and the United States, and even Mexico, because of subduction. That is one of the reasons we have volcanoes in Washington state that are looking like they're going to erupt too. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. A lot of earthquakes. A ton of earthquakes. A 2.1 off the coast of Petrolia, California, in the triple area of the Triple Junction. The Gorda Escarpment that runs away from the north coast of California and goes westbound into the Pacific Ocean. Okay? The Gorda Escarpment. The Gorda Escarpment meets up with the Pacific, or the Cascadia Subduction Zone. It runs parallel to the coast of Northern California, Oregon, and Washington. The Cascadia Subduction Zone. That meets up also with the San Andreas Fault, where we have this earthquake that is west of Petrolia, California. A 2.1 minor earthquake. But it's not the only one. It's not the only one. We also have a 2.8 there as well. That 2.8 probably is at least a 3.0 because USGS downgrades information. They downgrade the size of the quakes. I've proven it. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, I've proven it. We go further south along the San Andreas Fault to Brook Trails, California. Another 2.1 earthquake. Another 2.1 earthquake north of San Francisco. Then we go further south, and the next earthquakes that we have don't have anything to do with the San Andreas Fault. We have 30 plus earthquakes over in the Geysers area, Sonoma, California. The Geysers area. What is that? That is a geothermal facility, folks. A geothermal facility where men have drilled into a volcano that's just north of there, the Clear Lake volcano, to obtain steam to power 80 different turbines in the geysers area, so the turbines can generate electricity for 4 energy conglomerates, one of them being Pacific Gas and Electric, and one of the other being Rocky Mountain Power that provides power to Utah. That is why we're having earthquakes in the geysers, because the seismic energy finds those man-made earthquake faults, those man-made drill points, and it fractures the rock inside the drill point, causing earth movement, i.e. earthquakes. That's why we have anywhere from 20 to 50 earthquakes in the geysers now almost every day. Yes, 50 earthquakes almost every day in the geysers. It's insane. It's insane, guys. But it continues to happen. There's more earthquakes further south along the San Andreas Fault, including over in Parkview, California. Why? It's the earthquake capital of California on the San Andreas Fault. A lot of earthquakes there. A lot of earthquakes there. North of there, the Pinnacles, just southwest of Monterey Bay. 2.3 earthquake hitting there. Aromas, California, just north of the Pinnacles, just northeast of Monterey Bay. What is there? We have the San Andreas Fault coming along the north coastline of California, don't we? Then on the east side of San Francisco Bay, what do we have? We have the Hayward Fault, don't we? Just east of there, we have the Calaveras Fault. 3 major earthquake faults there in Northern California. They pretty much converge on a place called ERUPTS, California. They're literally right next to each other there. That is one of the most dangerous areas you can live in, because ERUPTS, California is literally right there in the convergence of the 3 major earthquake faults in Northern California. What happened in 1989? October 1989. We had a World Series, didn't we? The first day of the World Series, there was a 6.9 earthquake in San Francisco on the Hayward Fault, causing massive destruction, literally snapping the San Francisco Bay Bridge, killing hundreds of people. Gas mains and water mains break. Firefighters can't fight fires without water. Buildings burned down in San Francisco as a result of that quake. The ball game had to be canceled because there was so much damage there. Unreal. The San Andreas Fault, guys, and the San Andreas Fault starts up there in Northern California and it goes all the way down through what? All the way down through California, all the way down through Mexico, all the way down into the Gulf of California, and down along the coast of southern Mexico, which is one of the reasons we have earthquakes there. Just one of them. Before I go and talk about what happened today up in the Pacific Northwest, I think we need to talk about what has happened in Hawaii. What happened in Hawaii today, guys? Over on the Big Island of Hawaii. We've had a massive amount of seismic unrest around Kilauea volcano and south of there along Pu'u'o. Now, some of you may not even know anything with Pu'u'o. Pu'u'o volcano is just southeast of Kilauea. In 2019, there was a lot of lava in the crater at Kilauea, Halemaumau crater, Kilauea. Same. Halemaumau crater, Kilauea. Pu'u'o, another volcano just southeast of there, had lava in the crater. What happened in 2019? All of a sudden the lava disappeared out of both craters. For several days, people wondered. Scientists wondered where that lava went. Folks, where'd it go? It dropped back, excuse me, it dropped into magma tunnels. Magma tunnels that went into the East Rift Zone. What happened? Fern forests, and out there into Leilani Estates, what happened? We had 24 fissures that erupted. Magma pushed its way over into the East Rift Zone and opened up the ground. 24 fissures opened up. Lava spilled all over fern forest until it ran into the Pacific Ocean. Lava went over into Leilani Estates and destroyed 1,500 homes. Lava poured out of those fissures in Leilani Estates and made its way to the coast as well, forming new land on the Big Island. What is happening today? Kilauea is having a lot of earthquakes. A bunch of earthquakes. I'm saying a bunch. A bunch. A 2.4. just south and west of Kilauea. Then I'm going to show you something I think you need to see. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. If this don't take the cake. Right here where you see my cursor. This is Kilauea volcano. This earthquake right here is another 2.0 earthquake. Today, here at Kilauea, look what's happened. Look what's happened at Kilauea. Earthquakes all over the place here. Literally. This earthquake I just highlighted is another 2.1. We go north of Kilauea up here. This is 1.8. Folks, Kilauea volcano is moving. There is lava down on the caldera of Kilauea. There is lava over here at Kilauea volcano right there. All these volcanoes are just south and east of Kilauea. Over here, where you see my cursor, this is Pu'u'o'o. Pu'u'o'o. Both of these craters emptied out in 2019. What are we seeing over here? South and east of Kilauea. Folks, look at all these earthquakes. There is magma down here causing all of these earthquakes. Magma down in the ground beneath here where you see all these earthquakes causing these earthquakes here. All over. Look at these other craters here. I want to show you this. This is just one lava vent that erupted probably 100 years ago. That is just one vent. Kilauea has vented out many times, even down here as well. Look at these vents here. All we have now is craters. All these earthquakes here are caused by magma down beneath the surface here in Hawaii. Okay? Over here. Okay? This is just south and east of Mauna Loa. Another volcano. I just highlighted this because it's a 2.1 earthquake. A minor 2.1 earthquake on the flank, the southwest or southeastern flank of Mauna Loa. Another volcano. Last year, Mauna Loa erupted for 3 days and it stopped. Does this mean it's going to erupt again? Probably not. Probably not. This earthquake here right next to it is a 2.1 here. A twin earthquake. Now, will Kilauea erupt? Possibly. But I think at some point in time, Mauna Loa volcano right here where you see my cursor may erupt. USGS is not showing us all the earthquakes here. There are probably 20 earthquakes here at Mauna Loa that they're not even talking about. They're showing these earthquakes here. They're saying this is north of Pahala. I call BS. It's not north of Pahala. This is southeast of Mauna Loa. On the flank of Mauna Loa. These two earthquakes have nothing to do with Pahala. Pahala is down here. Right here. This is a 2.2 minor earthquake, 5 kilometers, 2.5 miles south of Pahala. South of Pahala. Interesting, huh? Interesting. I was hoping that we can show you Pahala here. I just don't think they're going to allow us to show you the city of Pahala here. There's a small town here called Pahala. It's right there. Usually we have a lot of earthquakes around Pahala here. Again, last year we had a 6.6 earthquake. A 6.6 very strong earthquake hit Pahala. There was damage. There was damage. One of my dear friends, Laura, who frequents our channel here in the chat, has grandchildren going to school here at Pahala. Pahala sustained damage from that 6.6 very strong earthquake. Now we don't have that big of earthquakes here. Further south down here near the coastline of the Big Island, we have a 2.2. This is 2.5 miles south of Pahala. Why are we having earthquakes here? Folks, there is a magma chamber way, way down south here in the Pacific Ocean here. Way down south here between Tonga and South America. There is a lava plume coming up from the center of the earth here. That lava plume is sending magma, or actually it's not a lava plume, it's a magma plume comes from the center of the earth, sending lava to all the volcanoes around the world. All the volcanoes around the world are activating. That is why we're seeing earthquakes here. That is why we're seeing earthquakes here on the Big Island. It's happening, and it's going to continue to happen. We're also seeing an earthquake down here on the southern side of Mauna Loa. This is another 2.0 earthquake. The southern side of Mauna Loa. Magma is coming up here into Pahala and recharging this volcano. That's why we have earthquakes here at Pahala. Something else I should show you here, north of there. Rarely do they ever show any earthquakes here. Folks, this is another volcano here. Another volcano. Mauna Kea volcano. Mauna Kea volcano has just as many earthquakes right now as Mauna Loa does. But USGS is not saying anything. They hardly ever say anything about earthquakes here at Mauna Kea. They are lying through their teeth. Totally lying through their teeth about this volcano. Sooner or later, this volcano is also going to erupt, just like Mauna Loa did. Okay? There's also another volcano over here that I want to tell you about that is very inactive. Very, very inactive here. Back this out just a hair. Okay? That volcano is right here where you see my cursor. This is the Hualalai volcano. The Hualalai volcano. This is the one volcano here on the Big Island that's not doing anything at all. Very tiny tremors and microquakes hitting Hualalai volcano. But Mauna Kea, Mauna Loa, and Kilauea are getting hit. Magma is resurging here on the Big Island. That's what's going on. This earthquake off the west coast of the Big Island here, this is a 2.3 minor earthquake. It's off the coast of Kailua Kona, Hawaii. Kailua Kona, Hawaii. I believe this earthquake is due to magma on this side of the island. Okay? That's what's going on here. I want to show you this because it's very concerning. Very, very concerning. Are we going to have another edition of these fissures opening up here along the East Rift Zone? Possibly. these earthquakes that are right here are in what they call fern forest. Fern forest and Leilani Estates out here to the east, to the northeast, are where the fissures opened up. No, we are not seeing earthquakes right now over here in Leilani Estates, but they do happen. This area here can open up again. This is only proof of the magma out here. These earthquakes are caused by magma down here in the tunnels, magma tunnels here beneath the surface here on the Big Island. I want to show you that because it's very concerning what's happening. Does anyone have any questions about what's going on? We just had another earthquake over here off the coast of Oregon, off the coast of Bend, Oregon. This is a 3.6 earthquake over here in the Cascadia subduction zone region. This is on what they call the Blanco fracture zone. This is the Blanco fracture zone here. Okay? The Blanco fracture zone moves from the southeast down here, near where you see this earthquake right now. It goes to the northwest up here, and it connects with the Juan de Fuca Fault. The Juan de Fuca Fault goes further north. You see the zigzag lines of the Juan de Fuca Fault? It continues north up here, all the way up here to Queen Charlotte Island. Queen Charlotte Island. Also up here we have the the Cascadia subduction zone. The Cascadia subduction zone runs straight up and down the coast of British Columbia, Canada, all the way down here along the coast of Washington and Oregon, and comes out here, down here in the southern part of the Cascadia subduction zone region, where we have this triple junction we talked about a few minutes ago. Okay, this 2.1 earthquake here, and this other earthquake closer to shore here. This is also 2.8. So now we have a 2.1, a 2.8 down south, and this here, a 3.6 small earthquake here. Folks, this is in the Cascadia subduction zone region. We've had 3.6s here before. We've had 5.0 and 5.5 earthquakes here before. Is it going to continue? Probably. Probably. Now I want to go up here to the north. I want to show you what USGS wants us to see. This USBS has listed this quake as a 1.6 explosion, 11 kilometers northeast of Verania, Oregon. Interesting. Let's zoom in here and look what it is. Look where it is. Okay? I just love doing this because it proves that USBS does not research anything that they show here. There is no huge quarry here. So it's not an explosion from a quarry where dynamite is being set off to open up a quarry. This happens to be at, folks, a great big huge forested area. So either they are dynamiting a forest, trying to harvest trees out of here, or maybe a spontaneous combustus carnivorous, an exploding tree here. Sorry folks, that doesn't work either. USBS is not an explosion. This is a 1.6 tremor here. A 1.6 tremor here. Demon Catman is saying here in the chat, the Pacific plate is subducting all the way under the other plates here. Demon Catman is absolutely correct. Kathy Payan says, or making a bunker. I don't think it's a bunker either. It's USBS lying to us again. This is just a 1.6 tremor. a 1.6 tremor here in Oregon. It happens. There are also volcanoes here. How about that? Such a deal. Now I'm showing you 2 earthquakes allegedly at Mount St. Helens. Well, guess what, folks? There's more than just 2 earthquakes. I'm going to show you some seismograms in just a minute. Mount St. Helens. They're showing this as a minus 1.1 tremor. Minus being above sea level here. Above sea level. Folks, guess what? I hate to say this. This is not above sea level at all. This is about 2 miles deep. 2 miles deep inside Mount St. Helens. A 1.1 tremor. Over here to the northeast of Mount St. Helens in the foothills, we have a minus 0.3 microquake. Also, a half mile deep. They're trying to say both of these earthquakes are above sea level. This one is a half mile deep, and this one here is almost 2 miles deep. I'm sorry, not 2 miles, 1 mile deep inside the volcano, Mount St. Helens. There's more than just tremors here hitting Mount St. Helens today. Fancy that. Fancy that. Let's go up here to Mount Rainier. I just love this because we're going to catch USGS in a bunch of lies in just a minute. Over off the northeast side of Mount St. Helens here, Greenwater, Washington. 26 kilometers south of Greenwater, Washington, number 1. This is over on the northeast flank of Mount Rainier, nowhere close to Greenwater, Washington. This is a 0.8 microquake at Mount Rainier. Interesting to note. Let's go over here. This is the northwest side of Mount Rainier. This is a 0.2 microquake near Carbonado, Washington. Carbonado, Washington is in the foothills of Mount Rainier. And there is, in fact, a seismograph at Carbonado. There is indeed a seismograph recording information at Carbonado. And USGS is trying to say, oh, we've only got 2 microquakes at Mount Rainier. What they don't know is that I have researched what happened here at these major volcanoes. What I'm about to show you might interest you because I've got the latest information that they don't want you to see. Heaven forbid they'd tell us the truth about anything. Earlier this afternoon, I received a call from Friday Harbor, Orcas Island, Washington. There is a volcano just northeast of here. Okay, this is Mount Constitution. The lady that called me earlier today has been watching our program for years now. She told me there were 2 black clouds coming from the summit of Mount Constitution. 2 black clouds. That would tell me, I don't have a picture yet. I told her if she can get a picture, send it to me and I'll put it on the air. 2 black clouds going up into the air from Mount Constitution. Mount Constitution is 40 miles southwest of Mount Baker. Typically, when we see something happening at Mount Constitution, we see it happening at Mount Baker as well. What are we seeing here? What are we really seeing here at Mount Constitution? Every one of these signatures here, even the tiny ones, These are all steam signatures here. That one there. This one here. This one here. Over here. Steam coming from the volcano. Steam signatures. This one here as well. Steam signatures here. If there was a line with a dot in the middle of it, it would be an earthquake. This is steam coming from the volcano. 6 to 7% of all magma is water. 6 to 7% of all magma is water. Why would we be seeing steam coming from Mount Constitution? Let me switch this camera around because I want to show you why Mount Constitution, Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, Mount Hood, or any of the other volcanoes would be steaming. And they all are. Every one of these volcanoes in the Cascadia or Cascade Mountain Range are steaming. Every one of them. Now, why would they be steaming? Folks, let me show you something. At the top of every volcano, there is a piece of rock, a volcanic plug. A great big piece of lava that has been left over from the last eruption. And that lava hardened and cooled, didn't it? And it left behind a great big huge lava plug at the summit of the volcano. In this case, we're talking about Mount Constitution. We have magma coming up from underneath inside the volcano. And that magma is hammering away on that plug, isn't it? Trying to make that plug go away. And sooner or later that will happen. But that magma is hammering away at that plug. What happens when that magma is still hammering away at that plug? The great big huge lava plug develops tiny fissures in the rock, tiny holes in the rock. The tiny holes pretty much go all the way down through that plug in the volcano, allowing that water to be dissipated through those tiny fissures in that plug, like this, just like that. That is how steam can escape from a volcano. 6 to 7% of all magma is water. So when that magma heats up like it does, anywhere from 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit up to 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, it heats up the magma, doesn't it? The magma is 6 to 7% water. So that water turns to steam, doesn't it? When it is allowed to escape the volcano. That's what happened today at Mount Constitution. And I hope we can get some pictures of it because, folks, if that is true, what she says, black clouds coming from Mount Constitution, that could also be ash. Meaning those holes in that plug of that volcano got big enough to allow ash and steam to escape Mount Constitution today. And yet, nowhere is there any evidence in the news about it. Because USBS would have a heyday. Everybody would be knocking down their doors saying, why didn't you report this? Because they don't want to. That is the long and the short of that story. They don't want to report anything. Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid. Steam coming from Mount Constitution today. Now I'm going to show you one more. One more seismogram from Mount Constitution. Okay? Then I'm going to show you the rest of these seismograms here in the Pacific Northwest. That one seismogram was a seismogram from the main page at Mount Constitution on the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. This seismogram here you can see, actually, I'm sorry, that was EDM. That was Mount St. Helens. Son of a gun. There was another seismogram from Mount Constitution. I don't know what happened to it, but it showed a lot more activity than this one I just showed you. For all intents and purposes, we have a lot of seismic energy all over the Cascadia subduction zone region and all over the Cascade Mountain Range. I told you just a minute ago about Orcas Island, Friday Harbor. Okay? This is what happened today at Orcas Island. Look at all the earthquakes here. Up at the top, the tiny ones like here are just tremors. This is probably a 1.5, 1.6 tremor. Over here, this is like a 1.3 tremor here. This earthquake here happened after 5:15 yesterday, about 5:17 yesterday. A tiny tremor here, a tiny tremor here. This one is after 9:30 p.m., 9:31 p.m., 9:34 p.m. here. This is a 2.0 earthquake here. Okay? Up here, this is 5:10, 5:11 p.m. up here. We can't see the top of it because it would have been on the other seismogram before this. We can see the length here. This is probably a 2.2, 2.3 earthquake, minor earthquake. This is a 1.8, 1.9 tremor. Over here to the right, up at the top again, 5:15 on the left-hand side. So this would be about 5:13, or not 5:13, I'm sorry. This would be 5:28 p.m., 5:28 p.m. yesterday evening. Okay? This is a 2.8 earthquake here. What about down here? What about all these earthquakes down here? Okay? Over here, this is a 2.8, 2.9 earthquake. This is also 2.8, 2.9 earthquake. But over here, 2.9, 3.0 earthquake here. Right there. Right here. After that. This is today, guys. These earthquakes are today, this morning. This black line here, 2.9, 3.0 earthquake here. This happened about 11:04 a.m. this morning. This blue earthquake, 11:03 this morning, 3.0 earthquake. This earthquake over here, 2.8 earthquake. This earthquake down here, a 3.0 earthquake here. Folks, this is at Friday Harbor, Orcas Island, Orca Island. This is what's happening, and USGS says nothing. USGS said nothing about it. How about Lumi? Lumi Island, Washington. Let me show you this. Look at this. Usually at Lumi Island we see a bunch of microquakes and tremors and occasionally a regular earthquake. A regular earthquake. Over here on the left-hand side, this black line would be 7 p.m. I'm sorry, 7 a.m. this morning. 7 a.m. this morning. So all the way over here, this would be 7:13 a.m. this morning. A 3.0 earthquake. Look at all the tremor activity before that 3-point earthquake hit. There are several lines here. Several lines here. This means this earthquake just didn't hit and leave. This earthquake stayed around for a few seconds. Several 3.0 earthquakes back to back here. Then we had some 2.0, 2.2 earthquakes between it, and then we have another 3.0 earthquake right here. That earthquake lasted about a fraction of a second. Multiple 3.0 earthquakes. Then down here, over on the left-hand side, this would be 10 a.m. this morning. So about 10:11 a.m. this morning, we had another earthquake here. This is a 3.2 earthquake. A 3.2 earthquake at Loomy Island. Over here we have a tremor. Over here we have a 2.4, 2.5 earthquakes. Multiple earthquakes. Multiple earthquakes here. Look at the right side of the earthquakes. Okay, this would be a secondary quake here. This triangle over here on the right, this earthquake is a secondary quake. This secondary quake tells us that these earthquakes here are larger than they are looking, meaning the seismograph was turned down by the seismologist. We're not seeing the true size of these earthquakes. Instead of being just a 3.3, 3.2, 3.3 earthquake here, this is probably a lot larger than that. Probably a 3.5, 3.6 earthquake here. This one's probably a 2.8, 2.9 earthquake. Okay? Then we have tremors here, and a tiny tremor right there. Loomy Island, guys. Again, the USGS is not saying anything about it. Nothing. They're not even recognizing we have these earthquakes here in Washington State. Not a word said about it. Nothing. Not one thing said. That's sad. That is so darn sad. Let's go take a look at Mount Rainier before we go to St. Helens. Mount Rainier. Remember we showed you that picture that USGS had on their map showing some microquakes happening? Folks, this is the HHN channel of Emerald Ridge Rainier. R is Rainier, ER is Emerald Ridge. This is the HHN channel. It's called the VLF waves here. Magma coming into Mount Rainier here is coming in under very active conditions. Almost violent. Look at all these waves here. This is a lot of magma coming into Mount Rainier. All over here. 1700 last night, 5 p.m. All the way down here to after 1 a.m. this morning. Look what happened down here this morning. Starting about 10 o'clock. The VLF waves calmed down here for several hours. But about 10 a.m. this morning right here, all of a sudden the VLF waves increased. The VLF waves, these wavy lines show VLF waves. The amount of magma coming into the magma channel at Mount Rainier. Guess what, folks? This is only the beginning here. Let's go over to Mount Rainier, Camp Sherman. Look at this. Look at all these earthquakes here. Look at these tremors and earthquakes here. Folks, this is a steam signature. That's a steam signature. This is 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 an earthquake. This is a 1.7, 1.8 tremor. Mount Rainier. Down here is another example of a 1.8, 1.9 tremor down here. Close to a 2.0 earthquake here. This would be this afternoon after about 3:20 p.m. this afternoon. Up here, this red object up here, this is a little bit different. Folks, this is a magma churn signal. a magma churn signal. Okay? That happens when magma superheats. It shows up as a magma churn signal. Magma churn signals are typically 23 to 24 lines high. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is just less than half. Just less than 50% of what it should be. So this might show 48% of real world. This seismogram total might show 48% of real world here. Off to the right side of this magma churn signal, guys, what is this? What are these vertical lines here? These are steam signatures showing that Mount Rainier is steaming. Mount Rainier is definitely steaming, allowing steam to escape from that magma plug at the top of the volcano. I've got some more seismograms to show you here at Mount Rainier. Wonderful thing. This is Mount Rainier, Camp Muir. Camp Muir. Remember me showing you that VLF wave just a few minutes ago? Showing you a lot of magma activity during this time period last night. From 5 p.m. here at the top all the way down here to 1 a.m. this morning. We're not being shown anything. Nothing. All that magma here coming into the magma chamber didn't do anything. I call BS. USGS and the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network like to lie to us. Heaven forbid they tell the truth. They scrub the earthquakes from here. They scrub the earthquakes. Down here, we are showing an earthquake this afternoon here at Mount Rainier. This is another 3.0 earthquake at Mount Rainier here. Folks, this happened just after 3:05, or not 3:05, I'm sorry, 12:05 p.m. this afternoon. I'm sorry, that's not true. The blue line over on the left-hand side would be 12:30. So this would be 12:35, 12:36 this afternoon. A 3.0 earthquake here at Mount Rainier. They're just not showing us. Heaven forbid they tell us the truth. Heaven forbid they tell us the truth. They lie to us. They lie to us. Let me show you another one at Mount Rainier here. Well, I showed that to you before. All of a sudden, they cut me off. YouTube is not responding here. They cut me off. I'm just going to wait. I'm live again. YouTube cut me off. YouTube cut me off. Go figure. Again, why would they cut me off? I can't believe they cut me off here. Let me show you this again. Okay? Again, let's go over to Camp Muir at Mount Rainier. This is Camp Muir. Okay? This is on the south side of Mount Rainier. Camp Sherman is over on the north side of Mount Rainier. Look at this. Look at this earthquake this afternoon. The same earthquake that showed up at Camp Muir. I'm sorry, Camp Sherman. Same earthquake. Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild that they showed the same earthquake? Two different seismograms, and they showed the same earthquake at Mount Rainier. Yet, the USGS map didn't show that, did they? Rarely do they ever show that. Heaven forbid. Now I want to show you Emerald Ridge again. This is the HHZ channel. Look at this. Rarely, if ever, do we ever get to see this. Look at that. That is what's happening out Mount Rainier. Look at that. All day long. Literally all day long from 1700 hours, 5 p.m. up here yesterday afternoon until here at 5:30. Actually this is 4:30. 4:30 this afternoon. Look at all this activity here. This is what I'm saying the USGS is not showing us. Heaven forbid they show us the activity. This is a volcano. Mount Rainier and Mount St. Helens are volcanoes that are showing signs of a possibly future eruption. These volcanoes all showing signs of a possible impending eruption. Let's go over to Mount St. Helens. East Dome Mount St. Helens here. Look at this. They showed some tremors at Mount St. Helens, didn't they? Some tremors over on the east and the west side of Mount St. Helens. They didn't show all this. Yes, we have tremor activity happening up here at the top of this seismogram. Yesterday afternoon. We have tremors occurring all day long. But heaven forbid, this morning, they could have told us about this earthquake. On this black line on the left-hand side, this would be 2 a.m. Over here, this is 2:13 a.m. this morning. A 3.03.3 earthquake here at Mount St. Helens. Mount St. Helens. This is the East Dome Mount St. Helens. This is a seismograph that sits up on top of the volcanic plug here at Mount St. Helens. What about this earthquake here? This looks to be about a 2.7, 2.8 earthquake here. This is after 6 a.m. here. 6:03 a.m. here. All the rest of this stuff is tremors. All the rest of this stuff is tremors. Up here, this is microquakes. Over here, this is microquakes. Over here, this is microquake activity. Down here, this is microquake activity and an occasional tremor here. Meantime, we have at least a 3.3 earthquake here and a 2.6, 2.7 earthquake here. Small earthquake here and minor earthquake here. USGS says nothing about that. Oh, they're talking about microquakes. Heaven forbid they tell us the truth. Heaven forbid they tell us the truth. My gosh, why not see the truth? I'm going to another seismograph that sits on top of Mount St. Helens. It's a spindly-legged seismograph. Sitting on a spindly leg situation up there on the top of the mountain. This is the BDF-CC01 seismogram. What's this proving? At Mount St. Helens, it's showing VLF waves. VLF waves, the magma coming into the volcano. This is very light activity here. However, what happens down here? From about 5 a.m. here until about 8 a.m. here, what are we seeing? This is a lot of magma coming into the volcano. A lot of magma here coming into the volcano. These VF lines are caused by magma coming into the volcano. What did we just show you? A 3.3 earthquake in this time period. This exact same time period. Due to the magma coming into the magma chamber of the volcano. That's what happens. Here we're even seeing a steam signature. Rarely do we ever see a steam signature on the VLF wave channel. The VLF wave channel of a seismogram. Okay? Let's take another look at Mount St. Helens. I just love this. I get the biggest charge out of this. Folks, I'm now going to take you to that same seismograph, this time the main page of the seismogram. Main page. Look at all these tremors here. Look at all these tremors. This is a minor earthquake here. Probably a 2.5 earthquake, minor earthquake. These are tremors all over here. This is probably a 2.0 earthquake here. What about this? This appears to be a good sized earthquake. A 4.0, 4.3 earthquake at Mount St. Helens today. USGS did not show you this on the map, did they? Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid. A 4.0, 4.4 earthquake at Mount St. Helens. 2.0 earthquake. 2.0 earthquake. This appears to be a 1.4, 1.5 tremor down here. Mount St. Helens, guys. Mount St. Helens. Let's go take a trip south to Mount Hood. Good old Mount Hood. How about Trade Dollar Lake? It's a volcano just to the north of Mount Hood. Trade Dollar Lake. Look at the activity here. I'm sorry, this is not Trade Dollar Lake. This is Tom, Dick, and Harry here at Mount Hood. Trade Dollar Lake is over at Mount St. Helens, and there's literally nothing to show you but steam coming from the Trade Dollar Lake seismogram. Mount St. Helens is steaming. So are the other volcanoes all around these primary volcanoes. They're steaming. Here at Mount Hood, look at the tremor activity. Mostly tremor activity. Okay? Each timeline here, from left to right, represents 15 minutes worth of time. Each line here represents 15 minutes worth of time. Each line here, for example, this black line here, this would be 6 p.m. on the black line here on the left. The thickness of the line dictates how much magma is coming through the magma chamber. Okay? It's called magma pulse signals. The line gets thinner, it gets thicker. Gets thinner, gets thicker. Magma pulse signals. See right here, we have more magma here. We have more magma here. We have magma here, and we're getting a minor tremor right here. More magma here, and we're seeing a minor tremor here. Okay? Look at that. Magma pulse signals all throughout this seismograph. The seismograph has been turned down. The seismograph has been turned down. Okay? It's hardly showing anything until right here. Over on the left-hand side, it'll be 7 a.m. this morning. Over here, this is now 7:14 a.m. this morning. Look at this. Look at that earthquake. This looks to be a 3.3, 3.4 earthquake right here. Look at the magma. The magma caused this earthquake. Magma fractured inside Mount St. Helens. Fractured the earth right here. Fractured the rock, caused the earth movement here. That's how this earthquake hit. Magma movement. You can see the amount of magma right here. 3.2, maybe 3.3 earthquake. Small earthquake. Okay? Trade Dollar Lake. I'm sorry, not Trade Dollar Lake. Tom, Dick, and Harry at Mount Hood. Good old Mount Hood. Now, I want to show you this next one. This is Timberline on the south side of Mount Hood. Timberline. This is on the lower side of the volcano. What are we seeing? Look at all this activity here. This activity right here that's showing on the seismogram. This is magma. This is a great deal of magma causing rock fracturing. These are earthquakes caused by the magma coming into Mount Hood. Look at the thicker lines here. This is a great deal of magma coming in here into the volcano at 9:30 last night. 9:30 last night over here on the left-hand side, and then just like we talked about with magma pulse signals, the magma gets less and less and less, and then gets greater again. The amount of magma coming into the magma chamber gets larger. Larger amount of magma, causing rock fracturing. We're seeing tremors here. We saw some earthquake activity here. We're seeing some tremors here. Okay? Everywhere where you see a vertical line here is seismic energy caused by rock fracturing inside the volcano. Okay? This is Mount Hood. This is government camp. The seismograph here at Mount Hood is at government camp. It's called Timberline on the seismogram. Okay? The southern side of Mount Hood. Great thing. Great thing. Okay? We've seen it happen. This is the main page at Mount Hood, at Timberline Mount Hood. Notice the difference between the other page that I just showed you. In order to see what we want to see, we need to change channels. This is a multi-channel seismograph at Mount Hood, at Timberline. Multi-channel seismograph. On this one, we see an earthquake up here. This earthquake happened at about 10:18 p.m. last night. Again, this looks to be a 3.0, 3.2 earthquake, 10 p.m. just 18 p.m. last night. It didn't show up on the other one, but it's showing up on here. Okay? Different seismogram on the same seismograph. We would not have seen that other 3.3 down here if we hadn't changed to that seismogram. Again, what is the USGS hiding? None of those earthquakes showed up. None of those earthquakes showed up. None of those earthquakes showed up on the USGS map because they don't want them to show up. They have no intention on us learning the truth of what's going on. Does anyone have any questions? Rob52 is asking about Three Sisters volcanoes in Oregon. Three Sisters is south of Mount Hood. Now, let me go over here really quick. Let me go over here real quick and try to find the seismogram for Sisters Volcano. Just a second. Okay, let me pull up the Sisters Volcano. Now, I want to show you this. I want to show you the current seismogram. They change the seismograms at about 5 p.m. Pacific time. I want to show you this. Look at this. Okay? At 5 p.m. Pacific time, we have all this magma coming into the magma chamber here at Sisters Volcanoes. There's 3 volcanoes and only 1 seismograph monitoring all 3. Go figure. They should have a seismograph for each one of the volcanoes. There's only 1 seismograph here. This is current information. Look at this. A lot of seismic goings on right here. This is after 5 p.m. on the black line here. 5 p.m. on the black line. Let's go over here to the right. Look at this, guys. We don't see the top of this seismic signature because it would have shown up on the other seismograph before. Okay? This is a 3.5 earthquake at Sisters Volcano. This would be a 3.5 earthquake at Sisters Volcano. Right next to it. This is probably going to be a 2.8, 2.9. The same thing with this one. This looks like it might be a 3.0 earthquake here. We have seismic energy here. We have seismic energy going all the way down here to the right. Okay? Let's go to the previous seismogram. Again, Sisters Volcano in Oregon. South of Mount Hood. This is good for everybody to see. This is how I pull up information. Okay? Sisters Volcano at 5 p.m. yesterday. Nothing more than tremors here. Nothing more than tremors. These are all tremors here. Then we come down here to 3:15 a.m. this morning on the red line right here. This would be 3:15. We move over here and suddenly we have a 2.9, 3.0 earthquake. And we have tremors and minor earthquakes before that. There's tremors here before the main shock, and then we develop 2.0 minor earthquake, 2.3, 2.4 minor earthquake until we get to the main shock here. Okay? The main shock here. All of a sudden, I believe this is a 3.0 earthquake. And then it calms down after that. It looks here like we have 3 lines here, which means this 3.0 earthquake lasted for about 5 seconds. 3.0 happening 3 times back to back. Look what happened the rest of the day. We come over here. This is 7 a.m. over here on the black line. We come over here to the center of this seismogram, and suddenly we have a 2.8, 2.9 earthquake. Minor earthquake right here. Okay? About 7:10 this morning. 7:10 this morning. Look at all these other tremors here. Tremors. Remember the magma churn signals I told you about? Each individual horizontal line is a showing of 15 minutes of activity at each of these volcanoes. In this case, this is sisters volcanoes. Okay? Magma coming into the volcano. Magma pulse activity. Thicker lines here getting thinner and getting thicker again. More and more magma here. Then down here, this is at 11, I want to say this is about 11:06, 11:07 a.m. this morning. This would be a 2.8, 2.9 earthquake here. More tremors. A 2.0, 2.2 earthquake here. These tiny, I want to say, tiny lines here. This blue line, this red line here, this black line here, this blue line here, black line here, red line here, more of these horizontal lines. That's crap. That is called abstract, meaning the seismologist plugged that into the seismogram. The seismologist did that. That is not normal. A seismogram would not look like that. It's called abstract. False data. False data, guys. Folks, that is Sisters Volcano. 3 different volcanoes being monitored by one seismogram. I appreciate the opportunity to show you this, and more activity happening here presently. And I will bet you that they're not going to show you any of this activity tomorrow evening. They change it here. Those dirty bounders, they even changed it again. See, they doctored the information. They removed the original information. By tomorrow, we're not going to see any of this. They will remove these earthquakes at Sisters Volcano by the time we come on the air tomorrow. Rob says that's a lot of activity showing. Yes, it is. But again, by tomorrow, USGS will not be showing this. Heaven forbid. Actually, that's the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. The Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. Any other questions for me? Do you have any questions for me? I love these questions. Every question is very valid. Every question is valid. Wilson says filter all your information. I do. Absolutely. We have to. We have to filter our information to make sure we're getting true, concise information. Rob52 says, give us a thumbs up here. Please do that. The more thumbs up we get, the better off this channel is. The more comments after the fact, after this program is over, will tell YouTube, hey, we value this guy. We value what Emergency Management Associates says, and they will let more and more people see this program. That's how that works. They won't let people see this program if we don't have enough thumbs up, if we don't have enough comments after the program is over, and some other things that they look at. They look at the amount of time that you watch this program. If you don't watch this program but maybe a minute or 5 minutes or 20 minutes, guess what that shows? It shows only 20 minutes of watch time. Please, folks, watch this program from beginning to end. The longer you watch it, the better off this channel is, number one, and the better off you're going to be as well. Because if you don't come into this program until 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes into this program, you miss what we talked about at the beginning. That happens a lot. That happens a lot. If you come in at the beginning and you leave after 10, 15 minutes, you don't find out what happened after that. You would have totally missed the information we showed you about Hawaii, about the Pacific Northwest earthquakes and the volcanoes. You would have missed it all. So it's better here to stay with the program once you're here and learn what we have to tell you, because we're giving you information that can change your life. It can change your life. It can save your life and the life of your family. That's why we're here. We're hoping to save lives here. We're hoping to save lives. I appreciate all of you being here. Wilson is asking, is the Salton Sea at risk? Yes, it is. Again, I will show you that tomorrow night. I'll show you seismograms from Southern California tomorrow night. Southern California is at risk. The entire area of Southern California is at risk, from a large to a very strong major quake. It's probably going to hit this summer at the Salton Sea or just south of there at the northern border of Mexico and the United States and what they call Guadalupe, Victoria, Mexico. April 2010 is when we had a 7.1 earthquake that they're now saying may have been an 8.0. Guadalupe, Victoria, Mexico, right at the border of Calexico and the United States on the U.S. side. There was major damage in that area. Major damage. Mexicali on the California side and Calexico on the south side. Major damage. That 7.1 earthquake shook buildings all the way west in San Diego, downtown San Diego. It shook buildings and was felt all the way up into Los Angeles. That earthquake was felt all the way over in Arizona. Huge deal. We're going to have another earthquake very soon. Okay? Wilson said all the quakes in the California Gulf last week. Oh yes. Large earthquakes and moderate earthquakes all over the Gulf of California last week. There were probably 30 to 35 earthquakes in the Gulf of California just last week. All that seismic energy is now moved north. Like I said, it's balled up, it's holed up at the border of Mexico and the United States. It's going to go. It is going to go. It's going to happen. I guarantee it. It's going to happen. Brazilian civilians says, so what do you think this will lead to? Major earthquakes. Major earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. That's what this is all going to turn into. Major earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Any other questions here? The Salton Sea, that's going to rock. We have a volcano down there on the southern side of the Salton Sea. It's called the Salton Butte Volcano. That could also erupt. As I keep showing you all the earthquakes on the southern side of the Salton Sea, it's showing seismic energy, some of it coming from the Salton Butte Volcano. Fact. Fact. I studied this. I studied this in high school when I was in California, in San Diego. I studied it in college. I continue studying it. If I didn't continue studying it like I do, my degree way back when wouldn't mean squat now, because the science has changed. What I learned 20, 30, 40 years ago doesn't matter now. The science has changed. Events continue to happen and larger events happen. People are going to get hurt because the USBS is not telling us what's going on. People are going to die because the USGS is not saying squat. Rob 52 just told us about a 2.1 earthquake in Seven Trees, California, Northern California. Bob Leather's here. He says, I wish you nothing but the best in rltnspdema. Thank you so much. By the way, those are my initials and the initials of my former police department I used to work for. Back in the day, our police department did not have its own website. It didn't have an email group that we could belong to. So they told us to go out and get our own email, which I did. RLT are my initials. The NSPD was a signature for my police department at gmail.com. Okay? That's what I did. I also had an rltnspd at Juno as well. Anyway, guys, I want to leave you with something here from the scriptures. Folks, things are happening. They're going to continue to happen. In the scriptures, it talks about the change that's going to happen to us in a time period where we're going to die and the people that are still living on the earth are going to be changed in the twinkling of an eye. Why? Because no living thing can look at Jesus Christ and Heavenly Father and live. We have to be changed. If we don't die, we'll be changed in the twinkling of an eye and be caught up and moved to heaven. A beautiful thing. It says here in the scriptures, wherefore children shall grow up until they become old. Old men shall die, but they shall not sleep in the dust, but they shall be changed in the twinkling of an eye. Fact. Fact. And not just men, but women as well, and children. Then, a few scriptures later, the Lord tells us this, wherefore I say unto you, that ye ought to forgive one another. We need to forgive one another. For he that forgiveth not his brother his trespass standeth condemned before the Lord. We must forgive one another, just as Christ forgives all of us. Wherefore I say unto you, that ye ought to forgive one another, for he that forgiveth not his brother his trespasses standeth condemned before the Lord. For there remaineth in him the greater sin. We must forgive each other. Otherwise, we're going to be held accountable for what we don't do. We're going to be held accountable for what we do and don't do. Please remember to forgive each other and love each other. Remember the greatest commandment that the Lord gave us, to love each other as He loves us. Love each other as I have loved you. I think that's beautiful. Brothers and sisters, I have a testimony of the Lord. Many of us here on this channel do have a testimony of Jesus Christ. I am one of them that does. I love our Savior very much. I strive to follow his commandments. I strive to do the things that the Lord would have us do, because I want to live with him again, and I want all of you to be with me. I want my family to be with me, my blood and guts family to be with me, and I want all of you to be with me as well. That's one of the reasons we are here on the air. I'm trying to help you to prepare for what's going to happen. These major earthquakes are going to happen, and they're going to devastate our communities. Just like we've seen down in Taiwan several weeks ago. A major earthquake. And today, Taiwan continues to get hit by earthquakes. And USGS doesn't say word one about it. Sad. We try to save everybody's lives. We try to warn people what's happening to save their lives, so they have information that they can prepare for each individual event. We want to save people's lives. The Lord loves us. The Lord loves each and every one of us. Okay? Deborah Eden's here in the chat saying the Lord is the only thing that brings peace. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for being here. Thank you for helping each one of us with what you're saying. The Lord Jesus Christ brings us peace. And our world is topsy-turvy, upside down right now. There are protests going all over the place. The only thing that's going to bring complete peace is not the destruction and abandonment of Israel, but loving each other and stop protesting against each other. Stop using violence against each other. That's the only way we're going to have peace. Love each other. Wilson says love is a powerful word. You're absolutely right. Lillian says love you and pray for you. Thank you so much. I could use your prayers. Each one of us can use prayers. Pray for each other here. Pray for each other. Rob 52, I pray for him every day, and his wife. I pray for my dear friend Demon Catman every day. I pray for my buddy Don Patoka that you see here in the chat. I pray for each one of you because I care. I ask the Lord's blessings to be upon each one of your heads and the heads of your family. May the Lord's richest blessings be bestowed upon you. May we see peace in the very short time period we have left here on this earth. May God bless you and keep you. God bless you, and I ask this blessing humbly, even in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. God be with you until we meet again. We'll see you on the other side. Thank you all for being here. God bless. Good night.